Okay, so I'm going to be doing a breakdown guide on the AUG. So, here's my AUG. The first thing I want to do is remove the upper and lower receivers. So push this pin out halfway and then just take this out to the side. Next, I'm going to remove the butt pad. The easiest way to do this, put your thumb right here and push towards the center, so it should come right out. And here's the back of the gearbox. There's two screws here and here that keep this plate in, holding the gearbox. So I'm just going to take these out. Now you want to be careful right here because there are little gold pieces behind these screws, and those can be lost very easily. So I like to unscrew the screws and take pliers and carefully lift the plate out of the gearbox. You will notice my plate is cut off right here. I did this to accommodate a larger battery. The one I use is this Intellect, very good battery. Then I'm going to take out these two gold pieces. Careful with those. And sometimes taking out the gearbox from the body is a pain, so what I like to do first, I like to take out this body pin. This comes out. This body pin, and loosen the third one. You don't want to take this one out because if you take the screw out, the magazine catch will pop out and you just don't want to deal with that. So take out these screws, set them aside, and now we're going to take out the gearbox. Once the motor cage comes out, I like to get a thick something, stick it right here, and pull down and out. So out comes the gearbox. And then take it out of the body. So here's your gearbox. First you want to take off the hop-up cover. Just slide it off to the side. And here's my MOSFET, custom wiring, EG1000. So there are 6 screws holding the gearbox in. You want to take them out. On normal gearboxes, there is a little clip covering the gear, sector gear right here. It goes like this. I just took it off because mine broke. So unscrew the screws. You'll notice the AUG has extra wiring right here. You don't really need to worry about that because when you take off the screws, it just comes off with the wiring and it sits separately from the gearbox. So unless you're replacing the wires or wiring it differently or something, it's really not a big deal. You'll notice after I remove these 3 screws, the wiring, it just comes off, and regular version 3. So I'll just finish off these screws. So after you use your gun, always be sure to reset the main spring. So I made sure I did that so I don't need to worry about it blowing up in my face when I open it. So right now you want to kind of pry the gearbox open just a little bit, and get a screwdriver, insert it in the back. This is where the spring guide is, so you're keeping down the main spring. And then carefully lift the gearbox shell away. So keep pressure down and relieve the pressure in the main spring. So spring guide, spring, assembly, tappet plate. The trigger. I noticed a lot of you had questions about the trigger. There's three sections. Trigger spring, I don't know what it's called, the connector block and the trigger. This part, it goes on like this. It basically allows each trigger pull to push the trigger contacts into each other. Okay, and the trigger spring, it has a long end, and it has a short end. You'll notice right here on the gearbox in this corner, there's a tiny hole. The short end of the trigger spring goes down into that hole, and the long end sticks up. The long end, what it's going to do is it kind of wraps around your trigger like this. So the long end is pushing against this part right here after you install it into the gearbox. So to do this, I always put in the trigger spring first, and then I put in the spring first, and I kind of loosely push these together and push the trigger into place. It could take some work, but after a while you get used to it. Now to test this, I simply push down on these two, pull it. If it pushes back, that means the spring is in place, it's working. You can see it from here. So I'm going to put it back together because nothing else to talk about. Push the spring down, careful with it, grab the other side. Now I like to hook the back of the gearbox on the back of the spring guide. Hook it right here and then push this way. Hook and push. Line up the trigger and you're done. So now you want to re-screw it. Some people recommend that you use Loctite on the gearbox screws. That would be a good idea if you don't plan on opening it at any recent time. And I have no idea who's playing the piano, but sorry about that. I'm not using Loctite because I open my gearbox a lot, and I'm going to buy a tappet plate maybe to replace mine. So, AUG wiring, it's just like normal. I like to put in these 3 screws just to line it up so you don't need to worry about it. You want to make sure these screws are tight. Some people may have talked about gear timing. It really is not a big issue because after you fire the first shot on the semi, the gears reset themselves. So here's my gearbox. Put it back on the hop-up cover. Slide it in. Grab the body and then just line it up and push it in. So right here I put on the body pins first. And put on the back plate again. Again, be careful with the little gold pieces. They're a pain if you lose them, because if your motor is magnetic and if they fall down and stick on the motor, you're going to have to take out your gearbox again to get to it, and it's just a pain. You want to be careful. Put on the back plate. screws. I'll just show you a test fire. Connect the battery. You'll notice it sits really well. I like it a lot. It just fits like that, right there. So butt plate, put in the bottom first. This is just what I do. Bottom, then kind of the top, and then just push the rest in. Okay. Hit it to make sure it's okay. Put on the top, upper receiver, slide it in.